Hello and welcome back to my craft room. It's the 4th of January 2023 and yesterday I finally got my December ScrawlrBox. I did an unboxing, and because I'd already seen a couple of spoilers on social media, I'd had time to cogitate, and so I went straight ahead and did my first bash at the challenge, which is unusual for me. I normally have to let it fester for a few days. Now, the box was, even though I already knew it was in there, the box was really exciting, lovely and colourful. Let's take you to the desk. So we got these gorgeous, vibrant Edding acrylic markers. Love them. Some of the best paint markers I think I've ever used. We got this chisel-tipped Unipin fine line pen. I'd used lots of Unipin fine liners before, but didn't even know they did a chisel tip, and I love that it's such a small chisel tip, and you can get a huge variation of line weight with it, which is lovely. Really enjoyed blending them and using them with water. So for today I've got some brushes and a pot of water ready. I did my this was the, I love this inspiration piece by the featured artist Mr. Phil. I love the vibrancy of the colours, and I love this kind of, it's like an organised jumble of weird shapes and characters and things. I really love that, and the design on the front of the zine and the matching sketch pad, which I don't know if we've had before. Oh, and this was the piece that I came up with. So the challenge was Chaos Confined, and do you know, it's quite fitting that this feels like quite a chaotic video so far. Sometimes it'd be a good idea to plan what I'm going to say, wouldn't it? Never mind. Here's the swatching that I did. I tried blending some of the colours, so I managed to get some really pretty greens and purple shades and orange there, and some quite good skin tones as well. And tried mixing black with them as well to give me kind of darker tones of the same colour. Darker shades. I think it's shades when you add black, tones when you add grey, and tints when you add white, if I remember right. Anyway, so this was the challenge, Chaos Confined, and this was my first kind of warm-up bash at it. It's my take on Eurographic art. If you look carefully, you can see my hand there. So I quite enjoyed that, and it was a really good way to get to know the supplies. What I forgot, because I was doing things differently from the way I usually do, is one of the reasons I was so excited to get this box is that I knew from the spoilers that my friend Gaby Chic Dolls, I'll leave a link to Gaby below. Gaby's such a lovely person. Her channel is so much fun. There's so much fun and inspiration on her channel. So yeah, check her out if you haven't already. And I knew that Gaby was featured in the gallery, so that was, I completely forgot. I normally have a quick flick through the zine in my unboxings, and I didn't. To be honest, yesterday's video went on long enough because I was doing the actual challenge as well. So you get a quick look at the content, you get a sit down with the artist, you get some tips from Scrawlr, and you usually get some tips from the artist as well behind the artwork. So I'll have a good look at this in a minute. And then you get the Scrawlr gallery, which is always one of my favourite bits. Now with this, so this will be 2 months ago, the box from 2 months ago, when we had the Yono markers. Interestingly, another kind of paint marker. A lot of people really struggled with these. So did I to start with, and then I had another go, tried them on lots of different surfaces, and kind of got the hang of using them a bit, but they were tricky. And I have to say, these Edding ones weren't tricky at all. They were just such a joy to use. Anyway, so here's Gaby's piece. I mean, there's some lovely pieces on here. Interesting, someone's done cranes. I did a version of origami cranes as well. I love the idea of paper aeroplane. I think the challenge was things with wings. Yes, there's a dragon there. Oh, I do recognise this one. I think I follow this person on Instagram. A cat with wings, why not? Well, Jen Edwards. Yes, I recognise Jen Edwards. But Gaby of Gaby Chic Dolls is a very dear friend of mine, and I'm so pleased to see one of her pieces in here. So I will leave a link to Gaby. That's her Instagram handle there. And she's got a YouTube channel as well, really worth checking out. So that's where I am so far. During the course of doing this, I was, as well as sort of mulling over the issue that I was processing during my neurographic art. Read about neurographic art. Just Google neurographic art if you don't know what it is, because I'm not going to try and explain it. I don't really know what I'm talking about. So during the process of that, I was also mulling over what I wanted to do for my proper challenge piece. And because it's chaos confined, what I wanted to do was try and portray the chaos that goes on in my head often when I'm trying to sleep. Because I mean, it's lovely to have a head full of creative things you want to do, and I'm very lucky to have the time and space to do it these days and the supplies to play with. But having said that, sometimes I just want to switch it off, and it's just really, really busy, and there's sensory overload coming in from everywhere. The older I get, the more and more difficult I find to deal with being in noisy places where there's loud noises, strong smells, certain feeling, when the textures of things, all the kind of things that I've always struggled with all my life just seem to get harder and harder the older I get. And maybe it's because I'm retired now, I don't go out so much, I'm not so used to, I'm not, I like being at home quietly by myself. I spend a lot of time doing that. Maybe it's made me less able to deal with being out there in the world. But even when I'm at home quietly by myself, my head is buzzing constantly. If I'm travelling anywhere, there's all that sense of all that information coming in, whether you want it or not. That's what I want to put across. Okay, stop waffling and show you what I'm up to. As usual, I find A5 very difficult to work in. It's just too small, especially because, like these nibs are quite fat. So I'm going to work over more than one sheet, at least 2, possibly I'll go into 3 sheets of paper. So this is kind of a self-portrait. It's quite a flattering one, as you can see. It's probably me about 10 years ago. I didn't look at a photo, a mirror, the script, nothing. I literally did this out of my head. So it's not very accurate, but it's not bad. It's good enough to represent me. I've already had a practice with kind of skin tones that kind of will work for me, I think. So I want this part to be not realistic, but not crazy colours. I want it to be relatively realistic, but probably in quite a kind of cartoony way, if that makes sense. And then, as you can see, I've kind of left the top of my head open. So this is where I want all this mad colour to start. And instead of my brains coming out, some of it's going to look a bit like brains, but it'll be really colourful. And then there's going to be all these other things also coming out. So it'll be a 2-layer thing, possibly a 3-layer thing. And I will build it up. I've done this before. I might even, 2 or 3 times recently, I've actually used the box. I might do that again, use this bottom part of the box as a frame and build the whole thing up inside here. I'm going to have to see how it goes, I think. But that's definitely an option. So if you look on here, you can see this is supposed to represent the kind of sensory input, and then all the ideas and things sparking away in my head constantly. It's great, but sometimes you want to switch it off and you just can't. And people have said to me more than a couple of times on this channel, when do you ever sleep? You get so much done. Well, partly I am retired, so I do spend a lot of time in my craft room, which I'm very lucky. But also I sleep very little. 4 hours would be a good night for me. Yeah, and part of that is because I can't switch my head off. There are different things in here to represent. So this is things coming in visually. So there's a couple of eyeballs on stalks there. This is representing smells. I find some smells really, really disturbing. Even smells that are meant to be nice, like certain perfumes or food smells. I just can't. I can't bear them. Oh yeah, and this one is sound. Sound is one of the worst things for me. Yeah, certain sounds are so grating. I can't bear to be in the room with people making certain sounds. I can't, or on the bus. And then this one, the tentacle with the kind of a tongue on the end, is kind of it's touch and taste at the same time. It's quite hard to show that one. And then I've got a light bulb here sort of representing ideas. There's a plug here. I've got a couple of kind of, I don't know if they're sparks or synapses within my brain. It's sort of curly kind of vaguely organic shape here. I'm going to have some more of that here, which will either go behind or in front. I'll see how it goes. And then I want some kind of spring shapes boinging out. I thought about some cogs as well, but I couldn't draw them very well, so I gave up on that idea. But some springs, and then just some little random shapes, like if you look at the featured artist, I think I might have drawn some of these in, yeah, around the light bulb. Things like these little like drops and little triangles and things like that. Little, I've already got some lightning shapes, but little hearts, little, yeah, just little, and I might just even put in some little faces in amongst all of this, because I quite often think of it in my head. There's these little people going around, you know. I'm trying to remember something, I know it's in there somewhere, and I put it out my head and go and do something else, and then there's this little creature in there somewhere that comes back and goes, I got it, found it. All right, thanks. Those little characters in my head. So there's ones that are remembering things and organising things, and there's ones that are running about having ideas and talking to each other, and there's lots of them in there that are just sitting there going, shut up. That's my head. And as I say, one of the main things is that I want this to be fairly kind of normal looking on the outside, and then this explosion of weirdness and colour coming out. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. So I'm going to stop filming now, because I think what I need to do first is line in some of these. I think I need to do that, and in order to do that accurately enough, I'm going to have to get my head right over the paper, and you don't want to, you know, spend 10 minutes watching the back of my head. So I'm going to do that, and then when I come back and get to the point of adding the colour, I'll start filming again. I've also got the face to do. I don't want lines on the face probably, do I? I might just go in and start the face now. Okay, so I've got, as well as the pens, I'm going to put this one to one side for the face. I'm not sure I'll use it at all for the face, but this is water and fade proof, so because it's a pigment ink, so I could put this down, I could use water over the top of it and it wouldn't move, which is great. These also are, once they're dry, they're permanent, but because they're quite juicy and water based, you can mix them with water and mix them with each other really easily and use them like paints and get lots of different effects like that. So I've got my little pot of water, and then I've got a variety of brush shapes and sizes, and I've got more if I need them, right down to quite fine, because as I say, you know, the size of this paper and the size of these pen nibs don't go together that well. They work really nicely on the paper. It's like a very smooth white card we've got this time, quite heavy weight, and I found that even though I used lots of water on here, it didn't come through, which is lovely. I think the first thing I'm going to do is get just a wash of a vague skin tone on here. So I'll probably even do the eyeballs, because eyeballs are never really white. So and I can cheat and just, I'll use, you know, for the challenge we're only supposed to use what's in the box, but you know, I cheat a bit sometimes. I use bigger paper, or I'm using paintbrushes. I've certainly used an eraser even though it wasn't in the box, so you know, if it's things that I think we'll all have. So I might just use a little bit of white paint or a paint marker if I want to add a highlight back into the eye, rather than just try and leave a little white bit now, because that's just too much to think about. I'm cheating. I don't care. I don't care. To my mind, the challenge is, and the supplies, the whole point of having the box is to get you inspired and give you a starting point, really, a jumping off point. And if along the way I find I really want to use something else specifically that's not in the box, I'm not going to spoil my enjoyment of it by limiting myself too much. So you need to take my jacket off, I've warmed up a bit. Oh, it's so cold in here. When you first open these, you need to, like with any paint pen, you need to give them a good shake and then pump them gently. But I found 4 or 5 times was plenty, just to get the ink flowing. And they work beautifully direct to the paper, really vibrant. You can, you know, just blend them together like that, or you can do what I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to scribble some of this on my glass mat. It's really handy. You could use a palette, but it's just really handy having that glass mat just there. So I want a little bit of the, we've got this traffic yellow, what's this one called, Telemagenta, and I think it's called opulent turquoise. Yeah, use a tiny bit of that as well, believe it or not. They're kind of like the colours of printing, aren't they? Cyan, magenta and yellow. And initially I thought, I don't know why we've got a black one when we've got this black one, but of course they behave in very different ways, and this is a lovely, really dense black. You can cover a big area quite quickly. This is better for details and line work, and of course this you can blend out with water, and you can add to the other colours to make darker shades of the same. That's what I did there, darker shades of the colour. So yeah, so I think it is good that we've got it after all. I think what I would have really liked is a white pen. I'd have swapped a white pen for the sketch pad and worked on my own bigger paper. I think what Scrawlr like to do is make sure that you've got everything you need. If you've got no other art supplies at all and your Scrawlr box arrives, you've got everything you need to start off with. Okay, let's see how. Believe it or not, a little bit more blue, I think. Really watery. Okay. And if you are considering having a subscription to Scrawlr, I will try and remember to put a link in my description box. If you use that, it will take you to Scrawlr. You can check out the previous boxes and things to see what you think. But if you use that link when you subscribe, it will give you £3 off your first box. It also gives me some Scrawlr points, which I can save up and spend in the shop, which is a little a nice little bonus. And when you subscribe, everybody gets that. When you subscribe, you also get a link that you can give to friends, and if they subscribe, you get Scrawlr points and they get £3 off their box. So it's really nice, little extra. Don't know how well that's showing. I want this to be fairly light. Now what I don't know at this point is how these are going to, I'm going to go right in the eyeballs as well. I don't know how these are going to dry up. I should have taken note when I was swatching yesterday. You know, like with watercolours, they dry significantly lighter than they go on, don't they? These, I think they're going to stay more or less the same. I'll put a little bit more under here. So that's just kind of giving me a starting point. Rid of that whiteness. There's that thing, isn't there, with the human face now? Yellow at the top, pink in the middle, blue towards the bottom. Not vividly pink, yellow and blue, but that kind of a, you know, leaning that way. So I might have a bit of an experiment with that. Just change the mix as I go down the face, maybe. So maybe at the top, I'll mix another lot up for the top, and I won't put any blue in it this time. Let's try that. Oh, that's too yellow. That's almost orange. That's no good, is it? I need a little bit of the blue just to take that orangeness off. I'm just going to put a little bit more around there. Just around the edges. Bring that away. Keep that edge wet so it don't get hard line. Bit like with watercolour, really. Oh. And of course, remembering that unlike watercolours, these are acrylic paints, therefore once they dry they're not going to move again. A bit more of the yellow onto there, just deepen that where it'd be darker, leave this middle bit lighter. Right, so now I'm going to add a little bit more pink in as I go towards the middle of the face. I hope you're going to be able to see that okay. The ears are going to look darker, aren't they? Keep those edges wet. Got to be quite quick. This is looking quite subtle at the moment, but that's what I want. I want the face to be reasonably subtle, and then this explosion of colour inside, so that kind of chaos confined idea. So it's always a little bit kind of pinker around the eyes and nose, isn't it? Ooh, I don't want to lose the highlight there. And let's do a bit of I think I'm going to add a bit of blue now, because I feel like around the eyes you often get that almost a purpley grey, don't you? That's still quite pink. A little bit more blue even. Perhaps a tiniest touch of black. I want to go too crazy with the black. Let's get rid of that a bit now, it's getting a bit messy. Right, it's all looking very light toned still, but I think it just needs to be gradual, and at the moment I need to have a bit of patience and leave that to dry before I mess with it anymore. So meanwhile, let's see what we can do about getting a darkish colour for the eyes and the hair, without just using black. Let's see what I can do. Now with the blue and the pink, I found I could get a nice purple. I'm just thinking if I added a bit of yellow to that, would it go brown? Let's try. I was watching Zoe's video, and she mentioned that you do need to make sure you cap them. They do dry up quite fast, so she said like use them. So that's only giving me that kind of skin tone again. It's not going to go dark without adding black. I'm going to have to go in with the black. Just do that as a starting point. It's amazing how often it kind of helps you. You'll see me looking up at the screen, and it sometimes helps to see it more clearly. If you look at the screen, I can see that I've got the face shape all wonky, and yeah, it doesn't matter, I'm not going to worry about it. This is a really small little piece. I don't like working this small. It's not going to be a perfect self-portrait anyway, so I'm not going to give it too much angst. It's not going to end up looking anything like me, but it's for me, it's representing me well enough. I think thought I'd managed. Well, in my sketch I worked quite hard to get the face symmetrical. It sometimes helps to turn it upside down, but it still seems to have gone off a bit, but hey ho, never mind. Okay, I'm gonna keep on working on this and speed through a bit now. I will probably end up using, I've got this very fine, this kind of, I think this is called a rigger brush, where you get this really, I think they call that because they use them for putting the rigging in paintings of sailing ships, so you can get a really long, it holds quite a lot of paint, but you get a really fine line with it. So I might try be brave and try and use that to kind of outline the eyes, the eyelid a little bit, that sort of thing. I add a little bit of pink in the eyes there, I feel I want. I just want to be careful not to kind of too obviously outline, but I just feel like it needs a bit of definition. If I wasn't doing it for the challenge, I'd go in with my colour pencils probably to do that, but okay, so I'm going to do that, speed through, and I'll come back and see you in a minute. Let's get my face out of the way. Okay, right, I need to get my head right over this now and do this fairly accurately. This is very much an idealised portrait of myself like 20 years ago, I think. And I think I'm going to have to go in and define the nose and things again with the pencil, which is the only other thing I've got in the kit. Or I might try it with a fine brush, as that'll be a bit of a softer look than the pencil. And then I'm going to do the hair in, just like get a dark colour, and I might make the hair quite colourful because I love colourful hair anyway. So. And I'm going to have to cheat and add in highlights with the paint pen or something, and also cover up that little blip I've done there, because otherwise that's going to annoy me. So I'm going to stop filming now and come back when I've kind of moved on to the next stage, but you can kind of get the idea of where I'm going with this. Okay, so this is where I'm at right now. It's not ideal, but it has caught the expression I feel I've probably got on my face when I'm sat on the bus and everything's a little bit too much, or I mean, it's in the middle of the night and my mind won't stop working and I can't sleep. I tried using this pencil that came in the kit. It's an HB. It's a perfectly nice pencil, but what I wanted to do was bring back some detail and define a bit. I tried doing it with a fine paintbrush. I just couldn't. I just didn't have enough control, and it would take me ages, and I just don't. Anyway, in the end I cheated. So I used this Pitt Graphite Matte 14B pencil that we got in a previous Scrawlr kit, and I've just used that just to bring back some of the features and things where I'd lost them a bit. So I started putting the hair in. I found that if I use, hang on, there it is. If I use quite a bit of the black and then the yellow to warm it up a bit, and then a little bit of the blue and the pink, it kind of gives me a fairly good dark brown colour as a base. But I want to have some sort of, not strands of the hair, like tresses of the hair a bit more red and some a bit more purpley. Perhaps that would be quite nice, but I just want to get a base colour down which will help to sort of define the outline of the face a bit as well. And that sort of, this is giving me a sort of dark brown muddy kind of colour, which is pretty much my hair. That's dark brown muddy colour with some grey streaks in it now. I'm not going to do too much faffing with the hair because it, you know, it's not really important to this, but so I'm going to do that. And also I just want to add a little bit more interest to the eyes. I quite like this little kind of a light there that I've got, and I think I did that with, yeah, almost an orangey colour like that. Let's just try it. Livens it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish the other half of that hair, and I will probably add some more, another layer here. It seems to be working quite well to build it up in layers, but I'll put a bit more black in as well and just come down here. I might okay, so I'm going to do that, and then I will come back and show you the next bit. Probably then is going to be moving on to this fun part. Start having some colour coming out there. I can't wait to get into the colour bit now, but I want to get this face done first. It's definitely a very idealised portrait of me, but after the last very ugly portrait I did of me, I think I'm allowed to do a pretty one. So pretty okay, right, I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so I think that's as much as I'm going to bother doing with the sort of portrait-y bit. I'm going to start doing the fun part now, the colourful part. So I think I will be outlining all of these drawings first with the chisel tip fine liner. I think it'll probably look quite good that I'll get a sort of natural variation in the thickness of the line. I think that would be quite nice. And I know that if I then want to use the paint pens with water again, it will be fine. This won't, once it's dry, which is, it dries very fast, it won't move again then. I thought I'd just quickly show you how I was drawing my kind of colourful brains thing. So all I did was I kind of made a shape like this first, and then I just did that, and you get that kind of almost an intestine. And I can't decide at the moment whether these will end up going in front or behind these. Probably in front, and then there might even be another layer behind. Like I say, you know, a few times recently I've ended up layering and making these kind of 3D effects with these boxes because I've done that wrong, because I just don't like working so small, and this just gives me a little bit more scope with this kind of format of paper. So I'm just going to do shapes like that, and then I'll probably cut these shapes out. I think it's gonna work best. So there can be a real contrast now between the sort of relative realism of the portrait, and then this real kind of, you know, cartoony look of the chaotic brain. Which to me just helps to stress that idea of what you see on the outside isn't necessarily the same as what's going on the inside. Confined chaos. I think with these I'm not going to be subtle at all. They're going to be quite bright and colourful. I'm going to apply it with the brush just because I'll have a bit more control, because I find the nibs a bit fat for this size of paper, really. Shall I just go for it? Shall I just go for it? And then I can little bit of black if I like, to get a bit of depth to it, but still keep the kind of vibrant colour, hopefully. And I don't want just pink because that's looking a bit too realistic. So let's put some blue in there. Just a little line of a darker, slightly darker kind of skin tone, just to and then I can always add sort of extra depth of colour. Probably ought to wait until the first coat is dry, but I can add extra depth like this as well. Just blend it out if I need to. Since I've already cheated and used the white pen, I might end up cheating again and adding some white highlights to my brains. Right, so what I'm going to do now is go in and finish those, cut them out, and then I'm going to outline all of this and do a similar thing. So I will I'm going to finish the outlining because I just think that's going to take me quite a while. And I'll come back and show you when I'm ready to do a bit more painting. That's kind of the look I'm going for. It turned out to be really quick and easy to do these, which is good because I'm running out of time. I need to go and sort dinner out. So I've finished inking in all the lines and I've rubbed out my pencil. I'm just now toying with the idea of how exactly I'm going to put this together. It's really tricky. I think I'm going to have to cut this out, possibly even use, I did say I might need to use a third piece and do something like this, take them together at the back, lose the lines. So in effect I've just made myself a bigger piece of paper really, and I think I can manage to lose those lines by having some more bits and pieces falling out. So yep, I'm going to go for that. So say I want to make this hearing horn pink. What I'm going to do is just start scribbling in some oh, these just go on so lovely, they really do. So I'll start with that really intense solid magenta to start with, and then oh ouch, quickly before it dries I'm just gonna blend it out like that, and I blend it up to the point where it's really really pale so I don't get a hard edge. And then if I want to I could mix say a bit of purple, and I can make it perhaps a deeper colour on the inside. And if I want to, I could add a tiny bit of black to just really add extra shading. One of the lovely things is that once this is dry, I can go back over with any of these colours, even the yellow, and they're so nice and opaque. You get such good coverage that they'll go over the top of that. So I'll wait for that to dry, and then I'll go in there again. Now, what colour shall I make the tentacle? Blue? Let's go blue. No, I'm gonna make it orange with kind of a deep magenta in the inside. Let's go for a bright yellow turning into a green now. Right, that's all I've got time for a minute. I'm reasonably happy with it. I'm gonna walk away from it while I go and sort dinner out and stuff, and then come back with fresh eyes and think about how I'm going to put it together. But I think favourite at the moment is to kind of montage it all together, stick 2 pages together, give myself a bit more background. But yep, I'm going to come back with fresh eyes after dinner.